And we're live.
Hello.
Hello, Eugenia Forteza, the one and only. How you doing?
Good, doing great. Hello, Kofi. Thank you so much for having me today.
It's my pleasure, our pleasure, actually. We're really excited to talk to you today. It's been a long time coming. I think we've been meaning to do this for a little while, but circumstances and life
Life.
and all that just kind of has its own way with us. So we're excited to finally be able to have this conversation.
Me too. I'm
Happy,
very excited.
yes, indeed, yes, indeed. So happy Sunday. What have you been up to recently this weekend? What are you planned for Memorial Day weekend?
This weekend, actually, like very chill. I caught up with a friend yesterday. I've been doing a lot of research and studying and reading for an
Hmm.
upcoming summer project that I have.
Okay.
It's been raining all weekend here, so I really took it
Yeah.
easy. I definitely catch up with watching some things that I had to watch, like the Friends reunion.
Oh,
I
really?
watched
Oh, that's
that
already on?
yesterday. Yeah, I didn't realize it was on, and my friends from home told me, so I watched it yesterday.
Hmm.
It's really great. So yeah, chilling. Like usually I don't chill this much on a weekend.
You're just going 24/7? You're just
Yeah, there's usually, I've been getting a little bit better about, trying to make a little
Hmm.
bit of a difference, at least
Hmm.
with Sundays, like trying to respect the like little bit of a sacred rest thing that
Hmm.
Sunday should be. But in
Yeah,
general,
yeah, sure.
the freelancers, you just work every day.
Yeah, I no, I totally hear that. For a while, I was kind of in that mode as well, and it's you got to be on that grind. So I feel you.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so I'm going to give it a couple of minutes for people to trickle in. It looks like the audience is building slowly. But for those who are not familiar, can you give us a quick intro to who you are, what you do? Let's give you
Yeah.
the mic.
Oh, so I'm a French Argentinian mezzo soprano. I'm also an actor, a model, and I'm the founder of 360 of Opera. I
Hmm.
also write these days, thanks to 360 of Opera. I'm also writing for Classical Singer magazine. Um,
Excellent. Hmm.
and yeah, that's about it. I was born in France. I grew up in
Hmm.
Argentina. I moved to the States when I was 19 to do my undergrad and then my grad, and then I stayed.
Nice, nice.
And
Okay.
here we are. And I've been in New
Yeah.
York for 5 years now.
Okay.
So yeah, just like a hustling.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the name of the game when you're when you be an artist or a freelancer, you're working in this very creative space. It requires like such a dynamic energy and commitment to just finding the next opportunity and lining things up for yourself. And even pre-COVID stuff was challenging, and then COVID just made things so much more uh, challenging in its own way. And I'm curious, uh, how and what inspired you to even get started with 360 of Opera? Because that's one of the things you're very, very well known for, and you're doing very well with it. So I'd love to hear the origin
Thank
story of
you.
that. Yeah.
Um, well, I have to say, I have to be super honest about this because
Hmm.
I think sometimes people have this idea that, like, oh,
Hey, Raymond, what's going on?
hey, Raymond. I get this sense that I planned all this out, and I had it all figured out.
Yeah.
And no, it was very much like an accident, I would say.
Hey,
I'm just
Antonio, what's up?
I'm generally a very, for me, it's more about, I'm very passionate about the things I like and the things I
Hmm.
believe in. And for me, it's more always my priority is the search for, who being clear on who I am and what I'm here for and what I want to
Hmm.
do and what's going to help me, achieve that.
Hmm.
And I think with 360, it was literally something that just like appear. Oh, hi, Francisco.
What's going on?
It just came to me, one night I
Hmm.
had just moved to New York and I was at a concert at Carnegie Hall,
Hmm.
and it was excerpts from the Wagner Ring Cycle.
Mhm.
it just, I don't know, I was just like, woo. and
Wow.
I kind of got like really overwhelmed, like in a
Mhm.
good sense of like how
Mm.
it's like, this is incredible, and it's like,
Yeah.
how do I, and I was very much in that spot where, like fresh out of school, like I've always since day one had like a lot of drive and was ready to do things. And I
Mhm.
kind of was in that place of like, okay, but I'm wise enough now, to know that, I might not be ready yet to do certain things, but there has
Mhm.
to be a way for me to communicate this passion that I have with
Mhm.
others, that is not just, hey Natalie,
Hey, how you
um,
doing?
that is not
Yeah.
just by singing on the stage, because for
Mhm.
me opera and the theater is so much more than that. Being a performer is my priority,
Mhm.
but for me being a performer, being an artist means is so much more than performing.
Yeah,
And
especially today. I would definitely agree with
especially
you on
today. But to
that.
me, that
Yeah.
became very, very clear since literally day one when I got to the States.
Mhm.
Like I was actually pretty new to opera. I didn't come
Mm.
from an operatic culture. I had been studying classical singing and musical theater back in Buenos Aires. But I didn't know a whole lot about opera. So it was very
Mhm.
much, being in school and being with those people. And of course, like I arrived and, I thought like I could be in the opera, right? I was like, I'm here, I'm
Mhm.
studying opera, I'm going to be in the
Yeah,
opera.
yeah.
And
You
I
thought it was
had a
automatic.
rude awakening. I mean that. I had a rude awakening.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, you can't even audition like
Mhm.
when you're a freshman." And
Yeah.
I
Where
was
where were you
like,
for undergrad?
I was at Temple University in
Temple. Yeah.
Philadelphia.
Got it.
It's a great place to be, honestly. I feel
Mm.
very lucky that I landed
Cool.
there.
Awesome.
Also kind of by luck. um,
Mhm.
and yeah, so I ended up being an assistant stage manager for my first 2 years,
Mhm.
and that immediately opened my eyes to, kind of what 360 of opera wants to promote and show everyone,
Mhm.
that it's not just, this is maybe an unpopular opinion, but it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
just about the voice.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
it's true.
not
It's
just
true.
about the singing, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that is not to diminish the essence of opera, which of course is the
Mm.
music and the singing, but it's
Mhm.
actually, I mean, in a way of empowering performers, empowering the audience. I just
Mm.
very much, throughout my schooling, I was very involved in the production aspect behind the scenes.
Mhm.
I did a lot of, you know, work study at university every
Those
summer.
that helped keep me afloat, those work study jobs in
Exactly,
college.
especially as an international student. I wasn't
Yeah.
able to work off campus. So
Mhm.
um it's, it wasn't just about like figuring out how to make money. A lot of times for
Mhm.
me it was to figure out how to not spend money.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was my motto, like
Mhm.
all through school. What can I do to spend as little money as
Yeah,
possible,
yeah.
and at the same time, build skills and build a
Mhm.
resume, because
Mhm.
even if it wasn't a lot of money, if it was scholarship money, all of those were credits, and things that I
Mhm.
was learning about the craft and the industry.
Mhm.
And so all of those years of doing that, I just observed a lot of behavior from the audience, from people, and just
Mhm.
observed things that I felt could be different and better.
Mhm.
And I think it all came it all came together that night at Carnegie Hall when I just had this idea, of this
Mm.
360 of opera.
Mhm.
And
Oh, so the name came to you at the same time as well?
yeah, all of it. I like kind
Wow,
of had a
okay.
vision. It was crazy. It just came to me.
Interesting.
And
Wow,
and
that's cool.
yeah, and I always had a big interest for journalism since I was very
Mhm.
little. That's kind of like one of the first things that I wanted to do. I loved magazines. I loved reading the paper. So that's something that I kind of like put to the side and kind of like came back now,
Hmm.
I have a very clear memory of like being at the breakfast table, and because I would read the newspaper every day, I would read the art section and the sports
Mm,
section. My parents, I think,
okay.
are listening to this and they always laugh because they say like I would literally like grab those two sections and read that. And I always had a
Yeah.
little bit of this dream, of like, oh, I want to be either an arts journalist or a sports
Hmm.
journalist.
Wow.
So yeah, so
Totally different worlds in a way, but
yeah,
interesting.
but it
Did you
kind
play
of,
sports as a kid? Is that why you were also
I
into
grew
sports?
up playing sports. The arts
Mm,
came
later.
a bit later for me.
Okay. Hmm.
So I really have that mindset, of the sports and
Hmm.
athleticism. And so it's very much something that brought together a lot of things that are who I am, of my essence. Then
Hmm.
one thing's like maybe you might think like you move on or you evolve, but it's really, if it's something that's in you, it stays
Hmm.
in you and then it finds
Yeah.
its way back.
True. Yeah, it's like you found your life's task in a way, life's
Yeah,
purpose. And it sounds
absolutely.
like it's a common thread. It's connected through all the different things you've done throughout your life that have had meaning to you. And that also is a very clear signal that it's something that is going to continue to be a big part of your life. So I think you're very fortunate to have found that so early and for it to have really resonated with you at a young age. So, kudos to you on that, because most people take many years to find that, or they deny it, and then later in life they try to come back to it, because that was really the path they felt connected to. So that's pretty awesome
Yeah.
that you found that early.
Thank you. Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
I feel very fortunate with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think about in the classical business is that it's a very, very super duper competitive field where, like you said, the voice is really not enough. You have to have now good socials, and people are looking at that more and more. You have to understand how to run a business essentially, and do your taxes or find a good accountant. There's so much more to being an artist than just creating art. So I'm curious about your experience with that and how the growth and development of 360 of opera has helped you understand how the business is evolving. So if you could tell us about kind of your experience there, that would be interesting to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. So I also, I have to say I feel really lucky because with um it's kind of like what comes first, right? But
Mm,
because of 360, I was actually, then once I created it, it opened up even more doors for me to like really experience,
mhm,
all of the behind the scenes world, like even at a higher level, super up close.
mhm,
And I always wanted to do what I could to, not everything can be shared. But to kind of, as much as I can, to contribute to education
mhm,
and like just accessibility and kind of like, yeah, like tearing walls down,
mhm,
because I think there's a lot of things. I'm very much of the opinion that school can't teach you everything, and school is great
mhm.
for a lot of things that you
Yeah.
have to learn in
For school
school.
stuff, school is great. But
Yeah,
for
yeah,
everything
but
else,
I hear
there's
a lot,
MasterCard.
like people like just really just basically wanting to burn down all the conservatories and everything. And it depends.
Yeah.
It's such a personal experience. For
Mhm,
someone like me, who
mhm,
where I came from, where I had a 1% of the opportunities, that I ended up having here. I
mhm,
have a different perspective, and I don't take anything for granted. And the education that I was able to have
mhm,
in this country, and not even in like the biggest conservatories, right? And
mhm,
state schools, and have really good programs. Um, but at the same time, I knew since the day one that I
mhm.
wasn't going to get everything out of school. It doesn't
Yeah,
mean that because
yeah.
you're paying, everything's going to be spoon fed for you. And it shouldn't. It shouldn't, because part
Yeah.
of learning is figuring things out.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think, even throughout school, and because 360 came after school, once I moved to New York, I think it really opened my eyes even more
Mhm.
to what the industry is, to the challenges,
Mhm.
which I think one good thing about COVID is that it kind of brought everyone together, no matter, if they were an
Mhm.
undergrad student,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
brought the stars to everyone, was much
Mhm.
closer and much more
Yeah.
vulnerable, which
Mhm.
is something that because of my position in 360 and all the work I've done in social media and PR, I was able to see very clearly, pretty young, so I also feel lucky
Mhm.
about that it doesn't get easier, and you have
Mhm.
to, and I think that that's not super clear to a lot of young singers in school,
Yes,
and that's
absolutely.
where a business class, and just like an industry class would be
Mhm.
useful, which I think a lot of it is now available, with COVID, with all these podcasts,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
and all the stuff that I've been trying to do with 360. It's like kind of a reality check that,
Mhm.
and people that encourage you to ask yourself, like, you need to know that it's not going to get easier, that it's not because you're
Yeah.
singing at an A house that your life is perfect. And like, no,
Mhm.
you're going to have more expenses. It's like there's bigger
Yeah,
problems with bigger
exactly.
responsibilities. There's bigger
Mhm.
problems. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's a
Mhm.
bad thing. I'm saying,
That's just
um,
the reality. It's not
it's
a
that's the reality, and
yeah.
not just in opera, like in so
Mhm.
many other industries, but it's more
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
that's why, where I think a lot of people don't talk about this, but
Mhm.
your 20s are the moment where you need to really like get to know yourself and ask
Mhm.
yourself,
What do you want?
knowing all of the challenges that come with this type of career, it be
Mhm.
opera or something else,
Mhm.
is that something I really want? Is that what I want for my life? Is that where I want
Mhm.
to go? Because I think there's very much a discrepancy between like how hard some people train, but they're not asking
Mhm.
themselves certain questions, and then they burn out, or
Mhm.
they start getting
Yeah.
opportunities, but they don't know how to manage the lifestyle or the
Mhm.
business aspect.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
yeah.
think having more candid and honest conversations in general is something that society needs to do much more of.
Yes.
Like, yeah, I'm a big fan of like sports, like boxing specifically, and there's a very interesting phenomenon that you have to wrestle with early on in your career, which is if I get to the highest levels of this business, what does that look like? How hard am I working? How much money am I going to make? And then based on that, you have to look at what it costs to get there in sacrificed weekends, hours of practice, making connections with the people that can help you move forward. There's a lot that goes into a career. And I think when you're young and you're driven by the passion for the art form, you lose a little bit of that perspective that it is a job. And I've realized for myself that the more of a job it's become, a little bit less of the joy there's in it, in a way, of just singing. Because when it's pure and it's just you're doing it for fun and just for the pure passion of it, I think it's a little bit different than when it's your job and it's how you make your money and how you survive. It adds
Well,
an added layer of pressure to
I
it.
think that's where it's very important to, I go back to this idea of like, getting to know yourself also as
Mhm.
defining what is balance for you, because
Yeah.
of course, if all of a sudden, all of the pressure of everything, your entire life hangs on this job that is singing,
Hmm.
yeah, it's not going to be sustainable. Like there has to be
Hmm.
things that balance it out, other interests, like
Yeah.
a side gig, even if you don't need the money, like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
for fun, and you probably like these days, like diversify your portfolio anyway, because you never
For
know.
sure. Amen.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think there's a lot to be said. It's not even about, because I think a lot of times people confused, in trying to be real, and being
Hmm.
realist, it's very easy to become very negative. And I think it's
Mhm.
not about
Yeah.
that. It's about having the ability to be objective,
Mhm.
to have that ability to look at yourself like from
Mhm.
outside, and what you're doing from
Mhm.
outside and listening to yourself from outside.
Mhm.
And I think that is everything, having that ability to be objective about
Mhm.
everything that regards you, like you would for someone else, your business,
Yeah, yeah.
your singing,
Mhm.
stuff like that. Because I think that's a little bit less dangerous than being sometimes, like being a total realist, you can become
Yeah, yeah.
cynical very fast.
Very true, very true. I think, yeah, you're right. It is a sort of a balancing act in between, what the challenges are and then what your hopes and dreams are, and then finding a way to, put that
Yeah.
together in a way. Yeah, yeah. That's well put, well put. Um, so I just want to take a minute because we actually didn't do this at the beginning. Guys, if you have any questions, or guys, gals, and others, if you have any questions, anything you want to discuss, and any comments, feel free to add that into the discussion because that really helps enrich the conversation. I'm going to put Eugenia's website for her personal endeavors and then also for her business endeavors on so you guys can follow her on all the socials, email her, jump on her website, and learn from her experience. Honestly, it's a great opportunity to learn from someone who's put some really interesting things together and is really well known in the business. We actually have a question already from Vita. So
Cool.
here we put that up.
As it relates. So, what is your advice for young artists and then for more mature singers as it relates to finding the balance? For young artists, I think it's good to make that, which with COVID, it has become
Mhm.
more of a thing as a part of the conversation, right? Mental health. And it
Yeah.
doesn't, talking about mental health doesn't mean you're cuckoo or unbalanced.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
mental health is just as important as everything else, as developing your technique,
Mhm.
understanding about the business, because it doesn't matter how great your technique is and how business savvy you are if like the minute like something not great happens in your life, you just break down. So it's very important, I think, for young artists to make it very clear in your head this search for who you are and what you want. And it's not necessarily, you're not, when you're young, like you don't necessarily have that answer right away, because you have to live a little bit to like, sometimes it's a lot about, having experiences and having bad experiences. And then, even if you don't know what you want, you don't want that again, and there's a
Right.
lot to be
Right.
said about that. And that goes for like singing as well. When you're young
Mhm.
and you don't understand a lot of things yet, there's a lot to be said by being able to hear or feel and say, well, I'm not completely like sure about the whole spectrum of technique yet, but I can tell that
Mhm.
I don't want to do that. you know,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
like,
Crossing
and
things off the list, I guess, right?
yeah, and you
Mm.
start putting it together. And I think for young artists, and for me, like that was hard. Like I am not a patient person by nature. Like I had to really learn, like trial and error, to like pace myself, to not like learning how to say no. I'm still learning that. It's,
Mhm.
but if you have the right ideas in your head, and you're in this constant search for like really understanding who you are, that's a priority, and what you want,
Mhm.
and what you need to be okay and to be able to do your job. I think that's the biggest priority of them all. And then for more mature artists who maybe are already out there working, I think it's essential to, in our crazy like freelance lives, finding some sort of like structure or habits that ground you, and that can be different for everyone. It's real. That's where, the knowing thyself goes in, like what do you need? What do you need to make sure that when you're at the gig, like you're focused and you can do your best? For some people is doing yoga every morning. For some people it's making sure I have like good Wi-Fi at home so I can watch, something to relax at night, or certain foods, things like that, that it seems, for some people it might seem like weak or not important, but it goes such a long way. And especially like for the more mature singers, I think with all the traveling and everything that is now coming back, is having these like habits, like good habits, just go a long, long way in just keeping you centered.
Awesome. That's really, really wise advice. Thank you for sharing that. Let's if you have another one from Jennifer Lorocco off of YouTube.
Oh,
Thank you for
hey.
joining us, Jennifer.
Hi there. Great. You both are doing what you do. What are your thoughts, strategies for monetizing your online presence? Okay, so this, I see this a lot. It's not it's not that automatic, there's not like a magic potion to,
Mm,
1 + 1 = 2.
yeah.
um, for me, first, of course, you're welcome, Vita. First, you need to know, like, what are you selling? Like,
Mm,
what do you
yeah.
want to sell? What do
Mhm.
you want to monetize? For me, it was an accident.
Mm,
I didn't create 360 thinking it was going to end up being a business. It kind of went that way because things that I'm naturally good at, things that I
mhm,
was naturally doing, people I met, that I'm very, very fortunate of all the people I met along the way who introduced me to other people, who taught me things, who gave me work where
mm,
I learned a lot of skills. And now I'm here, where I am actually doing business under 360. So I guess, like, yeah, now I am monetizing my online presence. But it's not, it's like, when people ask, like, oh, when do I get a manager or when do I get a publicist? Well, first, there has to be something to manage, there has to be
mhm,
something to publicize. So I would say, first, if you're trying to make money off of your online presence, like, figure out, one, why, also because it's a lot of time. It's a lot of, time and
mm,
effort. It's not like it's starting an entrepreneurial business. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to get paid to take a pretty photo. Eventually, maybe, if
mhm,
you're selling products, but it takes time to build that, and you need to be very clear. I think, for me, it kind of ended up happening because I was promoting opera, and
mhm,
that was like the essence of the page since the beginning. And then I guess I was really good at it. So, it kind of just developed on its own. But if that's something you're interested in, yeah, I think you have to be very clear on, like, what do you want to do, what industry you're in, why do you want to do it, what you're selling, and then investigate that. It's like any
mhm,
other business. At the end of the
yeah.
day, it's about, you're selling something, so what is it and how do you sell that
Mm.
and why?
Yeah, I just that's a brilliant answer, and to add to that, my 2 cents is also just kind of doing the market research and seeing what sort of appetite the market has for what you're selling. Because one of the unfortunate things, I think, or one of the challenges, I guess, about being a singer is that it's so attractive as a career proposition that everyone wants to do it, and people are willing to do it for free. People are willing to do it and pay to do it, right? So what you have to do to break through that noise, I think, is if you're able to find a unique way of presenting yourself as an artist that's interesting and different, and really does have a sort of following behind it, that's proved either through social media or your ticket sales or website traffic or something like that, that then shows that there's something, as she said, to manage, and then out of that can grow your business as it relates to artistry, singing, whatever you want it to be. But it's a little bit of a process. It does take time to
Yeah.
kind of make that presence and build that. So I hope
Yeah.
that answers your question, Jennifer, and thank you for contributing to that.
Great question. Thank you.
Yeah. So let me jump in with a question about what your plans are post COVID as things are opening up, more people are getting vaccinated. Are you planning to travel more and do things outside of the states and outside of New York at least? If you could tell us a little bit about that, that'd be
Yeah, I
great.
hope so. I'm a nomad. Like, ideally, I would always be traveling. This past year was definitely like, I had to, it was actually really good for me because I'm one of
Mm,
those people that just like go, 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 go. And I actually, um, as terrible as all of this situation has been, for me personally, it really gave me the time to slow down and spend a lot of time, working through technique and my
mhm,
body and health and
mm,
a lot of things with 360 that I wanted to do for the longest time and I
mhm.
just didn't have time, so I
Yeah,
had the
yeah.
time to build a website, to develop more of the merch
Mhm,
and all of those things, do the live interviews, things that, you know yeah, I miss going to the live shows, and doing the behind the scenes that I was doing before, but it opened up. You're welcome,
mm,
Jennifer. It opened up room for other things, and it really helped me to, slow down a little bit and kind of appreciate, this what I was talking about before, like how powerful and how much of a difference it can be to, create those habits and
mhm,
meditation and
mhm.
having time to read, more like the introspection part of it that I think pre-COVID was just
It's
taken for
harder to do,
granted,
right?
or
Yeah.
like, yeah, not
Mhm,
not an important part of the equation. And now I see how important it is. So
yeah.
moving forward, I think I will definitely find a way to, include that in my lifestyle much more than pre-COVID.
Mhm,
I don't think I can go back to pre-COVID, honestly. I feel
mhm,
now that I
mhm.
have that perspective, I feel like everything I was doing was very superficial in a sense,
Hmm.
so it's definitely got to be different. But yeah, so this summer I can't say I can say that I'm gonna be shooting a film, my first feature film.
Great,
So I'm
great.
very excited about
Awesome.
that.
Yeah,
I heard this week the news, so you can
fantastic.
tune into my channels. Hopefully, I am able to share more details about it soon.
Mhm,
So that
cool.
will take me, make me travel a little bit. And then after that, I have stuff here in New York, to be honest,
Mhm.
like from being here, because I
Good.
didn't leave.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
from
yeah.
being of the people who stayed in New York, I actually
Mhm.
have a lot of stuff going on here in New York in the fall as
Awesome.
well. But my family's between Argentina and France, so I'm
Mhm.
really hoping,
To be able to
I
get out of here,
I
right?
can get out of here
Yeah,
sooner rather
yeah.
than later so I can
Mhm.
visit them, and hopefully, like sing and film like abroad. Also, I'm really hoping to have the opportunity to go and sing in Europe as well and
Mm.
Latin America. So I mean, I'm vaccinated. I have, all my paperwork is in order. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
down to travel.
You're ready to go,
Yeah.
yeah. That's exciting. Yeah, I think it's very hopeful to see all the things that have changed in the past, like, honestly, just the past 3 months even, how much things have opened up. Like, I was out in New York, just a couple days ago, and it felt like we're back to normal to some degree. I mean, everyone's eating outside versus inside, but the
Yeah,
streets,
I
there's a lot
definitely
more people
think
walking
people need
around,
to not
you know?
relax too much.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
think
for
everyone
sure.
needs to, I mean, especially in our industry, and I know we all are like much
Mm,
more sensitive than
yeah.
muggles, as we say. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just hope people are still, aware and careful because,
Mhm,
not every part of the world is as fortunate as we are.
mhm.
Argentina is in a complicated situation right now, as
Oh,
is India.
mhm.
So it's not
Yeah, sure.
over by any means. So I hope,
Yeah.
even if it feels very hopeful, which is a great thing. I think we all still have to be responsible.
Yeah, absolutely. Be diligent and
Yes.
smart about how we go about things. Yeah, for
Yes.
sure. Parents, Alyssa, we have a comment from Francisco, and
Francisco.
I think we 100% agree with this statement here.
Singer.
Uh,
Yes.
yeah, I mean the amount of different jobs and things I've done over the course of the past like almost 8 years I've been in New York. I mean I've worked in banking, I've worked in software sales. I'm back in software sales as my full time job. Video editing, photography, concierge.
Yeah. And
I
I
mean, I've
think
done a lot
like
of different things. Yeah.
I think you and I both, like we wear many hats, but I think one thing some people might take for granted is the side gigs, right? Like
Hmm.
there is like some like a little bit of this idea of like, oh, the side gig is just there to fund your dream.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I don't see it that way at all. I actually, all the things that I've done on the side, um,
Hmm.
I've learned so much from, and I encourage people to not take that for granted. First, because pick jobs where you're not only like making money, but you're learning.
Hmm.
Not only you're learning, but
Yeah.
maybe you're able to show people like your other skills that are needed in opera. Like, are you a
Hmm.
team player? Can you take direction? Are you good with technology? Are
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
are
Hmm.
you good with emails and communication? All of those are skills that we need in opera.
Hmm.
And and you can learn so much from doing it out of context. I think
Hmm.
there's a lot about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's not like two separate worlds. It's life.
Not at
it's
all.
it's all
Yeah.
connected.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I would say, like, for me, a little bit because of the nature of my status as an international student, I
Hmm.
always was kind of forced to, I had to work under, it had to be something under my major. So basically under the
Mm.
arts, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and that was like a good and a bad thing, because I always dreamt of just being able to get like a job at Starbucks and call it a day and like,
Hmm.
having that flexibility. And I
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
able to do that. But at the same
Hmm.
time, now that I have like some perspective and I'm able to look back, it kind of taught me to find opportunities that were always under the umbrella of the arts, right? So it's not like
Hmm.
I was all over the place and just doing random jobs just for the paycheck. I
Hmm.
was always still in the bubble of the arts. So what does that mean? You're constantly communicating
Learning.
and learning
Hmm.
and connecting with people who are in the industry and in the industry of the arts. It's not like opera is this like separate like kingdom. It's like
Right.
we're still all in the arts, and especially
Okay.
now with
Hmm.
COVID, there's so much collaboration, and just fusion of the arts. And I think that's something definitely like two important points to take in account, like, yeah, I get it when we're young singers, or young actors, like we gotta pay rent somehow, but you
Hmm.
can do that in a smart way, where you're learning
Hmm.
skills, where you're meeting people, where,
Hmm.
you're making connections. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very wise. You gotta. So one thing I've gotten from these other jobs is learning how to learn and acquire new skills and knowledge quickly.
Yeah.
The last piece of last experience where I just finished a boot camp in full stack web development was
There you go.
a real drinking from the fire hose sort of situation. But you learn how to learn, and that's one of the things you take with you into your opera career and your music career, your artistic career, and then also learning how to be a professional, punctual, responsible,
Yeah.
courteous. These are all things that you learn from the professional muggle job world, right? Because you really
Yeah.
won't survive in that world without that.
Yeah.
And bringing all of that polish to your opera career would definitely help move things forward. So really like
Absolutely.
what you have to say there. Yeah.
And also like the other way around, right? Like I
Hmm.
think artists themselves, like a lot of people underestimate their own skills, right?
Mm, mhm,
A music degree, like, yeah, it's still, even an undergrad degree, it's still just, it's a bachelor's, and like
mhm,
with music, with all like the crazy things we have to learn and hours we have to spend like practicing, like
mhm.
those are very valuable skills that we can
Mhm.
apply to the modern
Yeah,
world
it's
also,
very true.
so it's
Very true.
all
Yeah.
interconnected.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think figuring out like just like an audition schedule, like and balancing your work with your artistic work, and having to balance all of that and have a really good calendar arranged well. Figuring out creative ways of making things work when it's not automatic that they're gonna fit together. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of like
Yeah, the
resourcefulness.
creativity.
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
to have as an
Problem
artist.
solving. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Big time, big time, big time.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the craziest, or what's the most unexpected job you had to do as a
Oh
as an
my
artist out
Lord.
of all the jobs you've had?
Um, oh, so many. Oh my God. I've done like everything. Okay, so a couple things come to mind. I had this one time, and this is very much also just a being in New York thing.
Mhm.
I did a session for and I can't, I like a famous, I can't say the brands, right?
Oh, sure,
Uh, I did
okay.
a session for a commercial for
Mhm.
some beverage,
Uh-huh.
um, where they needed uh, um, a native French speaker singing
Mhm.
Edith Piaf.
Ah,
And how those
okay.
things work is like, first they'll call you in, um, like they'll cast you basically, but you come in and
Mhm.
you do a session, and then if they use that, you get like the big bucks, right?
Oh,
And
yeah,
there
yeah.
could be like a million reasons why they use it or not, like
Mhm.
sometimes they decide to not do the commercial and whatever.
Yeah.
So I ended up, I went to a studio to do this session. It
Mhm.
was so awesome because they made me sing it like a million times, but with like beats.
Mm.
And like, there was like an
Interesting.
as
Okay.
engineer, like they're like playing
Uh-huh.
around with me. It was like,
Yeah.
this is so cool. It kind of opened my eyes to like, like opera people, like we're so like purists and everything. And
Yeah, yeah.
like studio recording is
Mhm.
such an incredible art. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're like,
Mhm.
copy pasting, changing the sound and whatever, but it's
Mhm.
still an incredible skill. Like what the
Yeah.
sound engineer was doing, and like
Mhm.
what, there were two, and one of them was a composer too, so he was like
Oh, cool.
changing
Okay.
things on the spot. It was
Mhm.
such a cool experience. And yeah, if I was a super like in
Like,
the
"Oh, how
box,
dare they do this to this
right, in the box,
great
like
work of art."
singer, like, oh no, like I will not
Yeah,
do this, and it was
yeah,
such a cool
yeah.
experience.
Mhm,
And then well, I was a super, maybe people don't know what it is, a
mm,
supernumerary at Opera
mm.
Philadelphia when I was
Oh,
in undergrad, so while I was in school. So I
cool.
did,
Wow.
I was in Carmen, and it was super cool
Mhm,
because basically a super is like an extra in a movie, so you're like actors, you're not actually singing. But I was in the full production, at the Academy of Music. Eileen Perez
mm.
was singing. I was like a sophomore, it was the
Yeah.
coolest thing for me. um, and yeah, that was a really cool experience. I think those were big ones. I mean, my job out of school, I worked at the Juilliard store here in New
Oh,
York
here in New York. Okay.
when I moved to
Mm,
New York. I
cool.
love that job.
Mhm.
I still talk to my boss Gary all the time. He's awesome. It
That's
was
great.
such a great experience. Like it takes you a little bit, like once you know how everything works, it's one of those jobs where I learned so much. I learned
Mhm.
so much about like the publications and the editions and
Mm.
customer service,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
and I was surrounded by musicians all day.
Mhm,
But at the same time I was
mm,
working with numbers, and
mhm.
so yeah, that was a great job, and I learned so much. So
It's cool.
yeah.
And you were able to transfer all of that knowledge into what you do with
Absolutely.
360
Like
now.
now I have a
Yeah.
great knowledge of, like, what are good additions and bad additions and why.
Mhm.
And yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. So let's talk a little bit about 360 and
Uh-huh.
what you do there. I put your business emails for those who want to get in contact with her, whether it's for consulting or to do some sort of advertising. I can't
Hmm.
more highly recommend Eugenia. In fact, one of the earlier commenters, Raymond, is someone I referred to her, and she does a fantastic job at getting the word out there about what you're doing. And so, yeah, reach out to her at this email. I'll put the social down there. I'll also throw the website so you can go and buy some merch, hook it up. But yeah, tell me a little bit about 360 of Opera and what sort of services you're working
Hmm.
on. What's your primary like focus there right now?
Hmm.
And oh, actually, we have a comment from Natalie. I want to put up here.
Natalie. Uh,
Yeah, oh,
yes.
that's totally by mistake. Yeah, this blue suit is my favorite suit now, so I
Oh.
just throw it on, and yeah, it works. It's thank you very much for
I love
that.
it. Well, Natalie has the art eye. She's an art curator, so of course
Yes, indeed,
she would know.
indeed.
So yeah, so 360, it started as I always had the concept of the blog, right? But I
Mhm,
started it on Instagram, the Instagram page, and I started this in the fall of 2016.
mhm,
So there was not a lot of opera movement in Instagram yet, as far as
mhm,
like showing the behind the scenes. And so that's a little bit where it started, because it was a little bit of like being in the right place at the right moment, and why I
mhm,
had that idea, because I was like, nobody knows like what happens behind
mhm,
the scenes. And somehow I was getting myself in those rooms, and going to a lot of shows, and a little bit with what I said at the beginning of like figuring out ways to not spend money.
mhm,
I
mhm.
was really good at finding ways to get myself in the rooms, in the concerts, without spending
Mhm.
money.
Nice,
I
nice.
also worked at the gift shop at Carnegie Hall.
Oh, okay, Carnegie Hall.
I
Cool.
worked at the gift shop at Carnegie
Mhm,
Hall, and that's how I was seeing all these concerts at Carnegie Hall, and how I ended up like seeing this concert.
mhm,
Um, yeah, I always had kind of these ideas of, you know, because a lot of people helped me throughout
mhm,
my, even to get to the States. But then once I got to the States, I have nothing but wonderful things to say about, my whole experience in education. Like so many people in and out of school, I just find this country to be extremely generous.
mhm, mhm.
And the people, Americans and not
Yeah.
Americans, and just intern, because I
Yeah.
bonded with so many, like other international students or
Mhm,
teachers. And so I always wanted to, have 360 be also collaborate with, in education,
mhm,
and offering opportunities, for, young students like me, especially international students. Like it's hard.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so so there was a lot of that. There was the journalist aspect, with the blog, the social media aspect with Instagram. I love, so I don't know. I have a lot of fun on social media. Like it's not,
Mhm,
it's not like something I have to do for me. It's just fun.
mhm.
I like connecting with people. I have so many friendships from
Yeah.
Instagram.
Mhm,
Some of them I've already been able to meet in person, some I haven't, and I consider them friends.
cool.
Throughout the years, it kind of evolved naturally. I was doing a lot of, promoting opera as an art
Mhm,
form, and then more specifically, doing recommendations and promoting
mhm,
certain shows that I found. I always wanted to. I didn't want to just promote, the big stars or the big shows. For me, it's
mhm,
all one. It's all
mhm.
opera, and for me,
Yeah.
it was more about really promoting what I believe in, what I
Hmm.
think is interesting and adding something. So I'm very proud of that variety that we've always had and that I want to have. So with all of that, and in the middle, I worked for Lenny Studio for 2 years, which is a company that does websites and PR and digital marketing.
Hmm.
So I learned a lot there, and and made a lot of connections. I'm not there anymore,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
there's been like sort of a normal, just like natural evolution that led to, like 360 being a page where people can promote
Hmm.
their own business, their
Cool.
academies, their
Yeah.
competitions. I have a lot of experience in digital marketing. So that, but I always like to keep it very genuine, because I think the leverage of the influencer, if we're going to call it that, is that people trust you. People trust me that I'm not just like recommending
Yeah. You're
anything.
just
If I'm recommending
haggling
something, it's
product.
because
Yeah.
I believe in it and I've tried
Hmm.
it myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot
Cool.
of that going on, and it's always like I enjoy it a lot, like to collaborate with other brands and companies and in the business. So there's a lot of that going on. We have our shop now with our
Yeah.
merch. Um,
Great.
Most recently, we collaborated with my friend B. Goodwin, who's a librettist and stage director.
Yeah. And
And we
Felix, right? Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and so B and I designed these tote bags
Hmm.
that are they're called the B bags, and so we the first one is already out and is available at our store. So I'm hoping to
Hmm.
do more of these collabs with the
So
merch
what's
as
the link
well.
to that? Let me throw that in the chat. What's
So
the
it's 360ofopera.com/shop.
okay? All right, folks. It's going to be in the ticker of the across the bottom of the screen in just a second. All right.
And you can also find it, so our Instagram page
Oh, let me
has
put
the
that.
shop as well. So
Excellent. Okay.
all of our products are on there too, and it takes you to the website where you can purchase.
Awesome.
um
Very
yeah,
good.
and
Very
then
good. Yeah.
so through that I also do like some like consulting, and like I don't know, like now these days I'm kind of realizing I started, maybe I should call it like coaching. Like I've been
Yeah.
helping, well, because
Hmm.
I taught a bunch of master throughout last year. It was really cool. I got invited to give a lot of talks and master
Hmm.
classes on social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and I really enjoy it. It's so cool to be able to share my experience and hopefully inspire
Hmm.
others and demystify social media, and
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
give it a
That's a good way to put it. Demystify.
yeah, and give it a
Yeah.
positive turn. I feel
Hmm.
like a lot of people like think social media is the devil, and it can be like it, but it's up to you.
Yeah.
Like it's just there. It's up
Yeah.
to you to decide what relationship you want to have to it with it.
Amen.
And
Yeah.
the way I see it, for singers at least, it's a tool. Make the most of it.
Agreed. Yeah.
And so I do
Yeah.
a lot of that, coaching, to
Hmm.
help people figure out what it is that how they want to use their socials and how to
Hmm.
make the most of it.
Yeah.
And it's super fun. I really enjoy that. And I'm also collaborating with Aza Zidikov at Olympia Arts
Hmm.
right
And
now.
Eurasia Festival, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Great
Olympia,
guy. Love Vaza.
he's awesome. They have
Yeah.
a gorgeous venue
Hmm.
that is available for
Hmm.
events and concerts
Hmm.
and a lot of projects. So I'm working with him on that.
Cool.
And yeah, that's a little bit of like what's happening on the side.
Wow, that's a whole lot. We need a whole like menu for the services and things you have going on there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Greetings to Taiwan. I see you made a comment, bro. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. So I mean, I really have enjoyed this conversation because it's refreshing and it's a different perspective, and you kind of get into some echo chambers in a way about the state of the business and how things are kind of challenging and all of that. And you've brought a different way of looking at all of this, and I think the audience really appreciates it, and from the questions we've gotten, people are really interested in hearing more what you have to say. So I hope folks have been following along with some of the banners on the bottom and how to get in touch with Eugenia and to work with her one on one, whether as an individual singer or as an organization, because she does do these partnerships with the organization. I'm proud to say that DictionBuddy is a partner with Eugenia and 360 of Opera. So, we actually have a really great promo we're putting together. We'll announce that in just a few minutes. Yeah, this has been really great. Any thoughts, anything you want to share with the audience that you found particularly insightful or just interesting recently?
Well, I think it's this, this idea of like staying hopeful. And I know like I understand, I'm
Hmm.
not like, I don't want people to think that I'm like this, like, oh, like flowers, rainbows, positive. Like I'm definitely like, I know, I understand like the complicated situation we're in.
Hmm.
But I don't know. At the same time, I think there's a lot of good. You're welcome, Bella. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
There's
you,
a
Bella.
lot of good that came out of last year as far as like social awakening
Hmm.
and just restructuring of a lot of the old structures, in some
Hmm.
companies and organizations that maybe if we hadn't had like such a tumultuous year, it would have just stayed the same,
Hmm.
And so, and as far as technology too, I feel like really like most of the companies had to really step up their game. And not only
Hmm.
as far as technology and live streaming, filming, and their online presence, which was all long overdue,
Yeah.
but also like just creativity wise, and thinking about like how to collaborate with other kinds of artists, how to do more of a fusion. Opera
Mm.
is not, I've never seen opera as this, because maybe because I came to it a little bit later on my own as a teenager and experiencing it as a something super cool. I never had opera on this like pedestal of like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like for me, it was
Hmm.
like at the same with pop music, I listen
Yeah.
to pop music. It's
Yeah.
so
I mean,
for
opera was pop music of its day, right? And it just
exactly,
outlasted many other music forms, actually.
but also it's
Yeah.
not like I'm not the only like young person in the world who, like thinks opera is cool,
Hmm.
so I think there's a lot of great things that happened this
Hmm.
last year that actually, or that are brewing, and are going to
Mm.
bring a lot of great change and creativity to not only to the art form, but also to the business and the industry. And I just encourage everyone to lean on that and try to contribute to it and try to support it, and to get tickets and try to consume these things and consume what these companies are trying to put out there, because there's a lot of great stuff happening.
Yeah, yeah, there is, and it's just a choice, I think, to see it in as an opportunity, because all these challenges do present obviously some negative, like short term effects, but the people who are able to kind of reconfigure and turn the perspective of this negative experience into something that they can use as an opportunity to create something new or do something differently. Those are the
Yeah.
people that tend to rise and are able to persevere through the things that this business throws at all of us. And who would have known what was in store for us when we celebrated January 1st, 2020, right?
Yep.
No one had any idea that it would happen and would be to this
I
extent.
was in at Royal Opera House Muscat at the
Uh-huh.
beginning. That was my last international trip at the beginning of
Wow.
January
Mhm.
2020. It was an incredible trip. They invited me, as press to visit the house
Mhm.
and see a show and everything. And yeah, I look back to
Awesome.
that moment. I'm like, I thought I was going back to Muscat like in the fall, like
Yeah, right?
yeah. But I do
Yeah,
hope to
yeah.
go back because it was
Mhm.
truly like an amazing experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big pause, extended pause for sure. And a lot of my friends have actually done really interesting things during COVID, whether it's write a new opera, whether it's
Yeah.
launch a new initiative, like Maria Zoe from Atelier d'Excellence. She launched that in
Yep.
direct response to the challenges that COVID would present, and through that organization, they're actually another partner of ours. Through that organization, giving great opportunities to singers, making connections to people in the industry that it would otherwise be very difficult for people to get in touch with. That's the type
Yep.
of innovation that I think opera needs more of in general, even pre
Absolutely.
COVID. So,
And it's
uh,
making, for with my perspective as an
hmm
international student,
hmm
when I was very lucky to have the opportunity to come to study to the States, but I got here and I didn't know anyone. I didn't know the teachers. I hadn't had trial
hmm
lessons, like that
hmm
doesn't exist to like be able to like just travel the world to find your perfect teacher,
hmm
And
hmm
so a lot, there's amazing singers in Latin America that now all of a sudden, also with organizations like Atelier d'Excellence or Vincero
hmm
Academy,
hmm
um, Abdiel Vasquez
hmm
created this academy. They're also an excellent organization. And all of a sudden, because we're all more savvy at this virtual world and a lot of the star teachers, star singers
hmm
are available,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, like there's much more accessibility. So that's a
hmm
huge plus as far as education.
hmm Amen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you said, it is a wonderful opportunity for those who choose to see it that way, to take advantage of things that they otherwise would not have access to. So this has been an awesome conversation. We're gonna wrap it up in a few minutes to see if there are any other questions or comments.
Well, that
Um,
leads me into
ah,
your business, DictionBuddy, which
yeah.
is an amazing organization, amazing app. What you guys offer is also just super avant-garde and
Thank
makes
you.
life easier for students and singers who are preparing. Like I remember when we first talked about it, the big thing that
hmm
stuck with me that you told me is, it's not about replacing coaches or replacing
hmm
diction coaches. It's about
Yeah.
making the preparation that you're supposed to do as a singer to make the
Yeah.
most of your coaching, just
Exactly. Yeah.
making it easier and more approachable, and
hmm
making your part of the job just, yeah, just
Just a
ease
little bit easier,
a
yeah.
little bit easier,
Yeah, yeah, more
so that
accessible.
then
Mhm,
when you have to pay for a coaching, you make the most of it. So at the end of the
exactly,
day, you end up
yeah,
saving a lot of time and money,
mhm.
and time is money, and yeah.
Amen, I couldn't have said it better myself, thank you. No, seriously, I mean, the mission, I think that's what opera needs in general, whether it's for language coaching, acting skills, fighting, choreography, you know, how to compose an opera, like, just making all those things a little bit more easy, a little more simple, less intimidating, honestly,
Yeah.
would actually break down some of the barriers I think people see
Yes.
between opera and, like, other forms of music, because I've been putting on concerts for a while now, and we just did a Gershwin concert, which is sort of a salon series we've been doing, and we'd had a couple of concerts before that. One with all Italian repertoire, one with all Russian repertoire, and as much as it's you can kind of explain what the piece is about, not having like specific words and like that fluidity and that understanding of the language does create a certain degree of a barrier, right, between you and the audience, which is something that opera has to constantly contend with. But the point of me sharing this is that the more you as a performer can embody and understand the language, the translation, and the character, um, the more you can do a better job of portraying that, so that that
Absolutely.
universal language of body language through music, which is really what opera is going to be that much more powerfully translated to the audience. And
Absolutely.
for me, like, I've been learning a lot of Russian repertoire, and it fits my voice type really well. And so it's good to be able to like study that and have something that helps me with it. So so
Mhm.
thank you for that. That was a awesome. I'm gonna cut that little segment out. We could use that as a promo.
Well, and I can say, because of COVID last summer, I
Hmm.
had my first dip into the Russian repertoire because I was like, well, I might as well now that I have some
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And I used DictionBuddy, and it really helped me because I had zero Russian, zero, zero, zero.
Yeah.
I used DictionBuddy to prepare, and then I worked with Aza at the Eurasia Festival. So I
Awesome.
have a Russian roll under my belt now.
Amazing. Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
awesome. That's really great. Very good. Well, in the same vein, we do want to share that we have a promo going with 360 of Opera. So if you go to dictionbuddy.com/subscribe and use promo code 360, very easy to remember, you will save 30% on all the packages and all the subscriptions that we're offering. So
Yay.
hope to see you there. If you have any questions, you can reach out to myself, to Eugenia. You can reach out to Vita or Emma. We're all part of this endeavor. So thank you so much again, guys, for joining us. I'm gonna throw her socials in there one more time so you can find her on Instagram. She's on Twitter. She is on the Facebook and
I'm
all those good things. She's
everywhere.
all over the place. So find her and work with her because she's the best in the business. So
Oh,
thank
thank
you
you.
again for your time.
Thank you so much,
And
Poppy. It was so much fun. I love being here.
this was great. Yeah, this hour just flew by.
Yeah.
It's amazing what happens when you're having fun. Um, all
Thank you to everyone
right,
who
guys.
joined us and for your awesome questions. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. So, guys, have a happy Sunday. It's wet out here in New York, but wherever you are, enjoy the day. Have a wonderful Memorial Day. And you'll see us on the next episode. We'll be interviewing Raymond Geis, who is a founder of App Companist, another app that really has created some real waves in the industry. And his latest endeavor, Resonance, which is a huge undertaking and is a huge game changer for this industry. We'll talk about that in our next
Awesome app.
podcast.
Awesome
Yeah,
app.
amazing,
Yes.
amazing resource. And yeah, I mean, Raymond's a good friend too, so we'll have a great time. So thank you again for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend. Talk to you guys soon.
Thank you. Bye.